Did not major in this in college for whatever reason. I think I thought at that point it was too hard. Too many people wanted to do it. And so my degrees are actually in public relations, and I have a master's in strategic PR. So anyone who is watching this who thinks that you have to have a journalism degree and you have to go to Northwestern or Syracuse, those are great schools, but don't let it fool you. You don't have to.
Welcome to the Next Level Journalist, where you will hear from some of the best journalists in the business or who have been there, done that, and willing to share with you what they've learned so you can get better, faster. My guest today is a sports anchor, play-by-play commentator, analyst. She's at the local level. She's at the network level. She is Dorian Craft. Dorian, thank you so much for making time for this today.
No problem, Kyle. I'm really excited about it. Thanks for asking me.
Well, like I said to you before we jumped on here, it was just a matter of time before I reached out to you because not many people are doing what you're doing, and even at such a high level. So I think what you have to share here will be incredibly valuable to not just females, but sports reporters, anchors who want to test the waters in other areas of just being a sports anchor. And I say just being, you and I both know there's a lot that goes into that.
Yes,
so that's
yeah.
Even more credit to you that you've branched out in other areas. So you tell us, give us a career rundown of dating back to when this first interests you to be a sports reporter, anchor, and up to date.
Okay, well, it's actually the story that I tell on interviews, and it's absolutely true. I've wanted to be a sports anchor and reporter since I was 9 years old. I've always known I watched SportsCenter every morning growing up. My favorite part of this is I used to watch a full hour because it's when it was old enough where they still did the same hour, like back to back to back. Yep. And I would get up and I would watch, the part of the hour, depending on, how early or how much I wanted to sleep in. And my mom at the time was in graduate school at Pitt. We were living in Pittsburgh. And so she would set this little classic egg timer for me to go catch the bus. And if I had not watched my full hour of SportsCenter, I would purposefully miss the bus so that I could finish watching that hour. And sometimes I made it where I could chase the bus down the hill. Sometimes she had to come get me, and she was not very happy about that. But I was the only kid that I knew that could rattle off the last 20-game winner in the MLB, give you the stats for the St. Louis Cardinals. That was my life. And so I've known I've wanted to do this for a long time. And when I was growing up, the position of sideline reporter didn't exist. That's something that's evolved over the last, 10 to 15 years probably. So when I was watching, the only women that I can really remember were Chris McKendry, Robin Roberts, and Linda Cohn was still there. And a testament to her that she's made her career last so long because, as you and I both know, the actual lifespan of a broadcaster is very, very short. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to be them. I wanted to be a woman that had played sports, that knew sports, and wanted to be kind of a role model for the next generation, which is funny. I'm kind of getting into an area where I might actually be that, and we'll touch on that later, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But I grew up watching Rich Eisen and Stuart Scott. That's who I wanted to be. And so, I started when I was 9, did not major in this in college for whatever reason. I think I thought at that point it was too hard. Too many people wanted to do it. And so my degrees are actually in public relations, and I have a master's in strategic PR. So anyone who is watching this who thinks you have to have a journalism degree and you have to go to Northwestern or Syracuse, those are great schools, but don't let it fool you. You don't have to. And so I was in graduate school at George Washington at the time. I was in my first marriage at the time and kind of hating my life, and knew that I wanted to make a change and knew that I would never forgive myself if I didn't try and do the thing that I'd wanted to do my whole life. So I sent out emails to every TV station, every radio station, basically asking them to let me work for free because I was a graduate student and didn't need college credit at the time. And only one station emailed me back. It was a talk sports station in Baltimore, this little tiny AM station. And I started as their intern. I started running the morning board, and it turns out that the guy on their morning weekend show was a photographer at Fox 45 in Baltimore. And so he and I went to breakfast one day afterwards, and we talked, and he hooked me up with an internship on the weekends at Fox 45, so I didn't have to have credit, and they had me make a reel. And it turns out that the sports director there, Bruce Cunningham, I'm forever grateful to him, because he knew my first news director. And when they had a job at WHAG in Hagerstown, I applied. It was only an hour outside of Baltimore, and Bruce put in a call for me. And the rest is kind of history. I went from there to Lexington to here, and here is where I really started getting into that ESPN and the play-by-play stuff. But it's been a very circuitous road for sure. And but everything happens for a reason, right?
No doubt. Share some of that play-by-play and how you broke into that, because again, just what you shared, that's clearly not what you went to school for either. How did that opportunity present itself? And talk about elaborate where all that started at too.
So I actually got into color commentary first, and that actually happened when I was in Lexington. I had played college softball at Virginia Tech, and funny story, I had actually always wanted to play my whole life at UK, and I had a verbal offer from the coach at the time during my recruiting summer, and they went like 6-24 in the SEC. And she got fired when Mitch came in and kind of cleaned house. So thanks, Mitch Barnhart, for taking my scholarship to Kentucky away. But I ended up at Virginia Tech, and actually, when I was finished there, I actually tried to transfer in and play for Coach Lawson, and she didn't need a third baseman at the time. And when I was in Lexington, that's when the SEC really started branching out and starting these new like little satellite stations where they have little studios at every school. And so I talked to Chris Scholes and Dwayne Peavy at Kentucky, told him my pedigree. They hooked me up with Coach Lawson, and she was okay with it. And they brought me in and started doing some color commentary for whatever games they had on the SEC Network Plus. I was not very good when I started. Dave Baker was very good to me, helped carry me a lot. And I did a couple games there. And when I moved here, there wasn't really a whole lot of opportunity for that. But last August, the guys over at Little Rock, UALR, pretty much to everyone else in the country, ESPN is now expanding that studio field that they had for the SEC schools to everywhere. It's that ESPN Plus network. And last year they started broadcasting women's basketball on this ESPN Plus platform. And Grand Champion called me up and said, "Hey, we need someone to do play-by-play, and I think you would be perfect." And I went, "Okay." I was like, "I've never done this before." And he's like, "Yeah, that's fine. We've never had this before. So anyone doing it is more than what we've had." And so I ended up doing 5 games for them last year with my schedule. And I actually didn't know if they wanted me back or not. We hadn't talked, and I reached out to them probably in August of this year, just kind of said, "Hey, I don't know what's going on. And I don't know, I know you guys don't know what's going on because of everything with COVID, and you guys don't even know if you're going to have a season. But, when you do, if you do, I would love to come back." And they said, "That's great. How do you feel about volleyball?" And I said, "Never played it, but sure, why not? My cousins played in college. I can give them a call." And so we did a crash course in volleyball for 2 weeks. I went to practice, sat in, talked to coaches, watched some of the other streams, had a very long conversation with my cousins who are coaches at Ole Miss and Villanova, and they actually tapped into their coaching tools where they can go back and watch film. So I watched volleyball film with them and kind of practiced. And now 4 games in, I had so much fun. I didn't realize it could be that much fun, but yeah, so volleyball and basketball coming up, and hopefully I'm supposed to do some work for Arkansas softball next spring. I was supposed to do some work for them this spring, and then obviously with COVID, that just didn't happen.
Right. Wow. I hope people are paying attention to one, just, your attitude about, I haven't tried this before, but you know what? Why not? And you just your, how you just go after things, so you are seriously setting the bar for anyone who sees this, when they're going after those opportunities, like you legitimately just went after them. So, props to you for that. That's incredible.
Thank you.
What do you see, where do you see all this going for you? What are you pursuing, whether it be, at the anchor desk or play-by-play or even both?
I've always wanted to be a sideline reporter, but you don't always get the things that you want. You sometimes get what you need. And I've actually had so much fun and enjoyed doing play-by-play so much that my agent and I have decided to pursue play-by-play as my next career path. I always knew that I didn't want to be an anchor or a local anchor. Anchoring is not my strongest suit. It's not my favorite thing about this job. And so I knew that I wanted to do it as a means to an end. And, I kind of touched on this in my first, the answer to your first question about how long I've known I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this job because I wanted to be a role model for the next generation of women. And there are not a lot of women in play-by-play right now. It's an area where we really haven't made a ton of progress. Obviously, you have your Beth Mowens and you have Melanie Newman now with the Orioles, and Kate Scott, my fantastic mentor with the Pac-12 network. But it's not very common. And so going this path, it's not only something that I enjoy, but it allows me to fulfill what I got into this for. And hopefully, there are women that come 5, 10, 15 years later where it's not, it's not unusual to have a woman doing play-by-play. So play-by-play, analyst work, who knows, maybe a game sideline or two, but I'm pretty comfortable at this point in my life and in my career with whatever happens, I'm going to say yes to, and I'm going to be open to, because you just never know. We get asked all the time on interviews, what's your 5-year plan, or where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I've just learned that I don't answer that question because I don't think it's realistic. Everything can change in this industry from minute to minute, that I'm not even really looking that far down the road. I'm looking a month, 6 months, no more than a year, and we'll deal with that when we get there.
That's awesome. And I had a conversation with Mary Jo Perino, who, of Mary Jo, and she told me one of the things that she regrets not pursuing play-by-play. And you're right, there are not many females in it, but guess what? There were not many sports reporters who were female, like you said early on, 10, 15 years ago, but now there's a decent amount of them. So I have no doubt that you will probably be a household name before long. So I'm thankful that I got in on ground level here, so we can look back at this 5 years from now and say, look, we talked to Dorian before she became that household name. So good for you. That's cool to be a trailblazer like that. What do you credit your success to? If you could say, this is what I do, or this is why I have done so well so far, this is the one thing that I can say, or multiple things that you can say, this is, my forte, if you will.
That's a really good question. That's a hard question to answer. I think there's a lot of things that go into it. I have a very deep need to prove people wrong. It's always been that way in my life. I've always wanted to be the best at everything that I do. Sometimes to my own detriment. There are times where I am my harshest critic by far, and it has been a problem in my life. And but anyone that does our job, I think, really has that kind of drive. You have to be competitive in this industry, because there are a lot of people that want to do this and not a lot of jobs to go around. And, just probably the willingness to say yes to things, even if they don't necessarily seem like the perfect fit at the time. There's never been an opportunity in this industry that I've said no to. I've always wanted to learn how to do new things. I've always been willing to do work that other people may not necessarily want to do, or that's not that glamorous. I mean, the reality of this job. Everyone thinks it's so glamorous because they see us on television for maybe 5 minutes a day, and not the other, realistically, like 10 hours behind the scenes that goes into it. I've been a runner at ESPN games. I was a runner for a game that Dick Vitale and Jay Billis called at Louisville against Virginia when I was working in Lexington, just because it gave me some contacts at ESPN. So a willingness to say yes to things, a willingness to do things that aren't always glamorous, that might pay dividends, and the ability to network, I think, is really something that has made me successful. There's a fine line between networking and stalking, and I'm usually right on it. Because my attitude when it comes to networking is always reach out. Because if you don't, or if they say no, if you reach out and they say no, you're in the same spot as if you didn't reach out at all. It doesn't hurt anything. And the key to nurturing those kind of relationships is ask for something 1 time out of 10. The other 9 times, just check in to see how they're doing. See if you can meet for coffee when they're in town, buy them a coffee, just chat, tell them happy birthday, tell them happy this, just make sure that the people that you're networking with and that you have relationships with that may be able to help you in the future, know that you care about them as a person, not just someone who's a means to an end. And I've gotten better about that as I've gotten older, because when I was starting, it was like, oh, what can you do for me? And not how can I, build a better relationship with you as a person.
That's great. Dorian, I know they have to be reading between the lines, because there's a common theme throughout every answer you've given. So, you've really brought a ton of value already to this. I want to ask you what your day is like now, though, because things have changed significantly during this COVID-19 season. And the first example would be the fact that you are sitting in your studio right now, right?
Yes, my gorgeous studio, which is my dining room table, is what I'm seeing you on right now. So, I mean, I'm like a lot of people. I'm working from home. I've been that way since February. My biggest accomplishment is being able to go back to the gym during this time. I had to do something. So I'm running an hour a day, which helps break up the monotony. But for the most part, I'm home. I only go out to the grocery store and to the gym and go to shoot Friday Night Football. That's it. So I get up, we do pressers, I'll cut my stuff for the day. I shoot my sports as a look live package. I'm rarely live in the shows right now. And then I send it back and start trying to do stuff for the next day or for the later in the week, whatever I can do. The hardest part about this has been, and it's common in broadcasting where we live far away from our families and we don't get to see them very often. And that's been the hardest part for me, because my husband doesn't live with me. My husband lives in Houston because of my job. He got a job opportunity there and I couldn't move because I'm under contract right now. And it was too good of an opportunity to let him pass up. But it's been really difficult for us because, we can't travel as often and so there's been that aspect to it, which has been probably the most difficult part of this whole thing, because really my day-to-day, other than, sitting in a studio, it's pretty much the same.
Wow. And that's significantly different for anyone who's never really been in this business.
Yeah.
Tell them what this was like, pre-COVID, because from what I remember, and I'm sure it hasn't changed much, it seemed like the first thing that I did was check Twitter when I woke up. And then the last thing I did was check Twitter before I went to bed. I mean, that's pretty
Not even that long. What are you talking about? So when I worked in Lexington, that was my life. I was on Twitter constantly. I've actually been very specific when I started working here in Lexington about compartmentalizing my life, because it's very easy to let this job take over your life and become your life. Mm-hmm. So I actually don't check my work phone until I get home from the gym, unless it's something that I know, like if there's something happening early that I know I need to know about, because work knows if they need me, if it's super important, they'll call my personal phone. That way I have some time to myself in the morning. And actually, as soon as I'm done with work, I put my work phone away. Again, for the same reason, if it's that important, if there's breaking news where they need me, they'll call my personal phone. And that allows me some personal space. And it's really important now that I'm from home and I could literally just sit on my phone and scroll Twitter all day, because it would be so easy to be sucked into that. But on the flip side of that, when I'm at work, I don't do anything else. Pretty much everyone in my family knows at this point not to contact me, because I will look at their message and not get back to them for 3 weeks, because I always, like, when you're in that zone, when you're editing and writing shows, like if someone sends you a text message, you look at it and you think about what you want to say to them. And I don't know if this is just a me thing, but like, I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, okay. And then like, will have think that I replied to them, but like, I actually don't. And like 3 weeks later, I'm like, oh crap. Like I forgot to say something back to you. So, I compartmentalize my life a lot, but when I get to the station, in what my life was like previous to this, I would get to the station at 1:30. We have our afternoon meeting from 1:30 to 2. I would sit down, start editing my 6 o'clock show. My co-anchor and I kind of split, so I'm not having to shoulder everything myself, which is nice. So sit down, produce a 6 p.m. show. We have 2 minutes in our 6. Go ahead and do the 6:30. We have 2 minutes at 6, 6:30. And then 3 at 10. So pre-produce, probably go shoot something after the show is over, bring it back for 10 o'clock, or tape something. we cover Arkansas is our primary school, but it's 2.5 hours away. So it makes how we cover things a little different, especially during like a basketball season. We mostly take stuff off broadcast, or we use our sister station that's up in Fayetteville. So, but yeah, it's 10-hour days. It's 10-hour days, 10.5-hour days, because you do your stuff that needs to go on air, and then you've got web, and then you've got your morning show, and then you've got 10 million other things that you have to go do and set up everything and do it all over again tomorrow.
Well, Dorian, I want to respect your time, but I want to leave you with this. If there's anything else that you want to add, I know that we could go down a dozen different rabbit holes in this conversation, but is there anything that you want to share with, aspiring journalists or current journalists, that say, hey, you need to do more of this, less of that, or anything that you think would be of value to share in this one? Because I definitely want to talk to you again, but again, we could talk for an hour or two. But is there anything else you want to share?
My main message right now, it would be the importance of journalism and good journalists. We lose a lot of journalists in this industry because the pay is not very good. Let's be honest about it. We don't get paid a whole lot. We work long hours. We miss a lot. And at the end of the day, a lot of people leave this business because they want to make more money. They want to spend more time with their family, and that's understandable. And journalism keeps cutting positions because stations want to save money. And I get that too. But I think that we've seen in this climate that we're in that we need good journalists, and we need them very badly. And so anyone who is thinking of getting into this industry that may be hesitant because of that, don't give up. This job is important, and it means something to a lot of people that are thinking about getting out. Make sure that that's what you want to do, because we need you. In journalism right now, I know we're in sports and we do the fun stuff, but at the end of the day, this industry is important.
No doubt. And Dorian, like I said, I hope to talk to you again on here before you become that household name and do play-by-play and whatnot. But I appreciate your time. I have no doubt that people that watch this are going to appreciate what you shared as well.
Thank you, Kyle. I've had a great time.
And thank you for checking out this channel. If you found this content beneficial, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share it with someone you think might find it beneficial as well, because this channel was simply started and created to serve you, to help others grow, to learn how other successful TV journalists do or did it. So take what serves you so you can get better faster and reach your next level.